Hello beautiful people, it's Mai here from Nintendo Life, and today we're reviewing The Adventures of Elliot, the Millennium Tales on the Nintendo Switch 2. This review was originally written by the lovely George Yang and made into a video by yours truly. Now without further ado, let's get stuck in. Square Enix's HD 2D art style has done wonders for its games. From creating new IPs like Triangle Strategy and Octopath Traveler to tasteful remakes like the Dragon Quest Erdrick trilogy and Live Alive, the charming presentation has been able to deliver modern gameplay while still invoking a retro feeling. So far, the HD 2D style has been used for only turn-based games, until now. The Adventures of Elliot, the Millennium Tales is the first HD 2D game with real-time action combat. It works surprisingly well, feeling like a mix between Zelda: A Link to the Past and Ys Origins. Fortunately, The Adventures of Elliot manages to establish an identity for itself thanks to its time-spanning story and incredible visuals. You play as the titular Elliot, an orphan with a knack for adventuring. Beast tribes overrun the land of Philadelphia, and the Kingdom Huther is protected from them by a magical spell cast by the Princess Huria. After discovering the Doorway of Time, he meets a fairy named Faye, and they go on a journey that spans a millennium in order to save Huther from falling. While the story is your typical save the world plot, it manages to stand out thanks to how Elliot's actions in the past snowball throughout the different time periods he visits, eventually accumulating in his present time, the age of safekeeping. It gives a more personable angle to the story. There are multiple endings, but the true ending is particularly memorable as you experience Elliot's impact in a well-earned and emotional conclusion. The gameplay is straightforward, with the hack and slash action feeling similar to Square Enix's Mana series. You have access to 7 different weapons to swap between at any time. Where combat lacks in complexity, it's made up with variety. The sword feels like your standard jack-of-all-trades weapon, while the spear gives you more range. The hammer is slow but powerful, and the scythe chain rewards precision and timing by hitting multiple enemies simultaneously. Elliot has an impressive arsenal of ranged weapons too, including a boomerang, bow and arrow, and bombs. You'll surely find your own preferences between the options, but what we found enjoyable was that each weapon was a viable choice. Instead of dodging, you're encouraged to block and parry. We found the parrying window surprisingly forgiving, but not so much that we still felt satisfaction whenever we pulled it off. Successfully parrying reflects damage back onto enemies, and sometimes stuns them so you can put on even more hurt. It's important to master your defensive options too, as enemies hit hard even on normal difficulty. Instead of earning experience and leveling up, Elliot's main form of combat progression is equipping Magicite, magical gems that augment and add effects to his weapons. For example, the Shield Repair gem restores his shield stamina by a bit when he lands attacks with his sword, while a movable stance strengthens bow shots by 45%, but prevents him from moving while charging attacks. There's quite an assortment of effects that let you build out Elliot's kit to your liking. It's a simple equipment system that's equally compelling. Faye can help out too. While she's usually autonomous, floating alongside you, she has her own powers, like being able to light herself on fire and cloaking Elliot's feet with wind so he can sprint. Not only are they useful for traversal, but battle as well. Fire deals extra damage to enemies who touch her, and Sprint lets you quickly run away from incoming attacks. Because of the game's fixed camera angle, you're able to directly control Faye with the right joystick if needed. We really like that this gives her a sense of agency, as she's actively helping the hero instead of just meandering around. The open world is notably small, but that's to its benefit. Instead of a lifeless and empty desert like in Metroid Prime 4, each inch of Philadelphia is densely packed with dungeons and caves to explore. They have puzzles to solve, like moving mirrors to reflect beams of light or changing water levels to get to higher elevation. At the end of each of these dungeons, you'll often find a prize for reaching the end, such as a max health upgrade or sometimes a new ability for Faye. So you're always encouraged to explore as much as you can. Some dungeons require light platforming, as there's also a dedicated jump button. Whereas in Meaning of the Hollower, where the jumping and platforming felt smooth, we found them to be quite annoying annoying here. They don't feel particularly accurate, and it's frustrating to time jumps on moving platforms since falling into pits inflicts damage. Still, exploration was rewarding and fun. Of course, the HD 2D art direction is absolutely stunning. The environments look exquisite and varied, filled with the lava pools, icy tundras, and luscious forests. Our personal favourite was the swamp areas, where the lighting refracts off the thick and oily surface, giving them a colourful rainbow sheen. One of the standout parts of the HD 2D aesthetic is that across games like Octopath Traveler and Live Alive, boss sprites are greatly exaggerated and are much larger, providing them a threatening sense of scale and personality. The same is true for the bosses in the Adventures of Elliot. Each fight has unique mechanics to take them down, so not only are the battles a spectacle to behold, but they're also engaging. While there's a diverse array of environments and bosses, the enemy variety is surprisingly low. The same automatons, flying griffins, bugs, and bipedal beasts infest the same areas regardless of which area you're in. It gets tiring fighting palette swaps of identical enemies after more than 15 to 20 hours in. There are also plenty of side missions to tackle. While many of them are simple fetch quests, they usually have some sort of backstory to them to build out Philadelphia's lore. Eventually, these side missions span across different ages. For example, requiring Elliot to search for a missing item that can't be found in the current time period, but in the past one. It's a clever way of using the time travel premise to create more involved quests. They're always worth spending time to complete too, as they offer useful rewards like accessories to equip or weapon upgrades. Some examples include the Gathering, which makes it easier for Faye to pick up items like currency and magicite shards dropped by enemies, or an extra quiver which increases the max capacity of arrows. Unfortunately, performance is lackluster on Switch 2. Load times are long, even opening up the world map takes a while. From the time you press the minus button to do so, there's about a 2-second gap before the map pops up. Additionally, there's noticeable lag when you're trying to switch between different eras on the map menu, which is genuinely distracting. And that's in docked mode. In handheld, these issues are exacerbated. Even with performance problems though, The Adventures of Elliot feels right at home on Switch 2. Gameplay is smooth in both docked and handheld modes, and if you can ignore the loading times and lag hiccups, there's plenty here to keep you immersed in Philadelphia across all its different ages. The seamless change from turn-based to action combat proves how timeless the HD 2D art direction is. The Adventures of Elliot not only looks beautiful, but has a story to match. Elliot's journey transcends time and space to deliver an emotional gut punch that stuck with us for a while. Despite performance issues on Switch 2, there's tons of gameplay variety and fun exploration, which makes it one adventure you'll want to make time for. We here at Nintendo Life give The Adventures of Elliot the Millennium Tales on the Nintendo Switch 2 an 8 out of 10. And now I suppose it's time for my thoughts. So I always have a difficulty in articulating my thoughts, and I suppose the best way to describe my time with The Adventures of Elliot is through a feeling. I know it sounds a little bit weird to describing it that way, but as soon as I booted up Adventures of Elliot, I felt comfortable. I don't know if it's because I've played a lot of RPGs, you know, I love the Octopath Traveler series, so I am very familiar with the HD 2D art style, but something about having the real-time action combat with The Adventures of Elliot just really felt right, you know? It's the type of game that I know for a fact that my playtime is going to be higher than I expected, because every time that I would go and play the game, I realised that a couple of hours had actually passed. Which was not a problem because the game is truly wonderful. I really fell in love with the side quests, going around trying to find the cats, because I love cats, but also being able to kind of dive into the story and the lore of Philadelphia. And what I really liked as well, which is a little bit of a quirky bit, were some of like Faye's lessons. So you can practice her powers and get little perks, which is quite nice. I've been enjoying kind of beating my previous records as well. And on top of that, with records, you can unlock some of the music, which I found really, really lovely. If there's one thing that I always really enjoyed from the Octopath series is the music, and The Adventures of Elliot it sounds beautiful. And I think that's the one thing that really made me feel really comfortable with the game, is that as soon as I booted up, I had a feeling of oh, this is really comfy, you know, there could be high stakes going on, but the music just makes it all so lovely. And that's another thing as well. I honestly felt like The Adventures of Elliot, even though it had high stakes within the story, it also didn't take itself too seriously. Like, I absolutely adore the cat guy. So you go through the different ages, you see all these cats around, and no matter where you go, you always see the same cat guy. He's just like, oh, hey, you're here. How's it going? Have you found me any more cats? What? In terms of the gameplay though, I know that George mentioned about how they struggled with the platforming. I personally didn't have an issue, but I suppose it depends on player to player. I think it also doesn't help that early on I saved up my money and purchased a cloak, which will help you kind of float a little bit better across the gaps. And even then I just kind of went a bit wild and just jumped without thinking about the consequences. The very minor things that I disliked, or rather got a little bit annoyed about with the game, is the inconsistency of how the difficulty levels worked out. So I played mostly in hard, or very hard in this case, which is a huge shocker for me considering that I played Mina the Hollower, for example, with lots of assists. This one, however, I ended up having to change the difficulty depending on the scenarios. So for example, if I was out and about attacking enemies, even in kind of mid to late game, I would end up having the difficulty levels quite high because I found that the enemies there weren't too difficult to defeat. Whereas if I went to go and do a boss fight, I know that depending on the boss, they have little stars in front of them which tell you how difficult the boss is. I got to a 6-star boss and I didn't find them too hard, but other ones that were clearly easier on the difficulty scale, I had to put the difficulty level down in the game, which kind of defeats the point, really. I didn't want to keep stopping and starting, going back to a guidepost just to change the difficulty level to meet what I was doing in that time of the game. Not a huge issue, but definitely something to bear in mind. Another very minor but easily fixed thing that kind of bugged me a little bit was Faye. As lovely as she is, and as little as I used her with the right joystick, I just found her voice just quite a bit annoying. Possibly more annoying than Navi in Ocarina of Time, and that's saying something. You can turn the chatter down, which I didn't end up doing. I just ended up blocking her out, which is really saying something. Overall, I will confidently say that I had such a wonderful time with The Adventures of Elliot, and it's definitely something that I'm going to continue to play over and over again, like I did with Octopath. I loved the time travel, I loved the gameplay, the fighting style was also really lovely and fluid, being able to swap and change and go between the menus, which sadly did take me a little while to clock on that you could do that. And also the little sprinkle of the Magicite as well was a really nice touch. It almost became a little bit of a gachapon situation where I would invest my Magicite and then hope that I would get something good coming out, which, to be honest, I didn't even have to think about what I wanted to choose when it came to the Magicite linked with my weapons, because you can entrust Faye to choose the right options. And even though I've played this game a ton, I really feel like there's so much more to discover, and this is something that I really love about these type of games. So I suppose it goes without saying that if you are looking for a game that is akin to the original Legend of Zelda games, with a bit of a modern twist and HD 2D art style, I would say definitely pick up The Adventures of Elliot. It, if not now, then definitely add it to your playlist.